You are listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Baskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry and beyond.
Today's guest is Colleen Jolly. Colleen has more than 20 years of experience in visual communications, training, marketing, across several industries and countries, including deep expertise in the US, UK, and Australia. She is the youngest person to win the APMP Fellow Award in 2010. She won the APMP Insight Award in 2012 for her article on international business, was featured in Northern Virginia's magazine Top 10 Entrepreneurs Under 30 in 2010, and was a finalist for the Stevie Awards Creative Professional of the Year in 2009. She just won the inaugural 40 Under 40 honor from APMP in 2017. She is a former Southeast of England Women's Business Ambassador from 2008 to 2010, docent at the Corcoran Gallery of Art, 2004 to 2014, board member at the Capitol Hills Art Workshop, 2007 to 2014, served as Secretary of APMP NCA chapter from 2010 to 2012, and was on the International Board of APMP from 2012 to 2015 as Secretary, COO, and the youngest CEO in the organization's history, as well as past CEO. Welcome, Colleen, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, Colleen, we're going to start out with some of your early beginnings and how you got started in the industry. So, to start with, where were you born and where did you go to high school and get your education?
Oh, we're going way back.
Way back.
Way back. I was born in New York, in Queens, New York, and I moved to Florida after my folks split up. And so I did most of my education down in Florida. I went to a high school called Melbourne Central Catholic in Melbourne, Florida. And then from there, I really wanted to get back to the big city. Florida was a little too slow for me. So I decided to apply to all schools up in the northeast of the country. And I applied to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And I got in. And I've been in the DC area ever since.
Oh, wow. It'll suck you in.
Yes.
So your first job was in the DC area?
Yes. I had lots of, side jobs and things throughout high school. Mm-hmm. But my first, professional job was in the DC area.
What was that?
I actually started as an intern at the 24-hour company, where I was for 18 years. I started as an intern, then became a regular employee, and then I became part owner of the company with 3 business partners. And I even started our UK subsidiary while I was part of 24-hour company.
Oh, wow. So you entered straight into the proposal world after kind of college?
I entered into the proposal world during college.
Wow.
I wound up starting as an intern at 24-hour company and, doing all sorts of regular interny things, getting everybody coffee, burning CDs back when you used to do that sort of thing. And then I had an aptitude for details, and I really wanted to learn the business. So I started working with clients, while I was still a freshman in college. And by second semester freshman year, I rearranged my entire schedule so that I would go to school 2 days a week, and then I could be open to work at 24-hour company the other 5 days a week. So
wow.
Worked That's a lot.
Really cool. Yeah. So over the years, do you have a most memorable proposal or capture effort that you've supported?
I do, for all the wrong reasons. I'm very glad to see that the industry is changing quite a bit. But back in the day, I definitely had a client that it wasn't a proposal until we were leaving at rush hour the next morning.
Mm.
So that was, I think that there's been a lot of really great improvements in technology that have made it easier to do proposals a lot faster. And I think that there's been a general change toward a more of an awareness of work-life balance, that, maybe we shouldn't actually work, 36 hours straight. Maybe that's a bad idea. So yes, I've got a couple of, those sorts of crazy stories about people working way too long, way less efficiently than they should have. And those unfortunately stick out the most about proposals.
Yeah, we've all been there, and we definitely understand that. And I think we're all really glad that things are improving for everyone with processes and tools and everything. So you've worked on proposals in the US, the UK, and Australia. Is that true?
Yes.
Do you see similarities and differences between proposals across those different areas?
Oh, absolutely. My focus has always been more on the visuals. So not to the detriment of words, but making sure our visuals and our words all work together so that we're telling the right story, we're sharing the right message. And even though those 3 countries where I've had the most experience in all theoretically speak English, there's certainly language differences, but then on the visual side, there's extreme differences in terms of imagery preferences, the meaning of color. So definitely, even if you think you're proposing to an English speaker, there are a lot of cultural differences that need to be considered when bidding into another country.
Oh, wow. I hadn't even thought about that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, you don't want to accidentally, say the wrong thing with your colors, your intonation. And we forget, because especially something like color, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about, it's very personal and it's very ingrained into our cultural paradigm. So you don't even think about it until you go to another culture and think, oh, why are they doing that? Why would they, do that? And because that's their paradigm.
Right.
It means something completely different.
Wow, that's so cool.
Wow, I've just noted down, Colleen, that color is your favorite topic. I will come to that at the end.
Okay. Sure. I could talk about color for ages and ages and ages. It's definitely, it really is the first thing that people react to is color.
Okay. What's your favorite color then, Colleen?
I probably have to say my favorite color is purple. I think it's a really rich color. In the U.S. and kind of Western Europe, it tends to be a royal color. In the military, it represents joint forces. So when you have a joint forces, Air Force, Army, Navy coming together, they often use purple. So it's a good royal but communal sort of color for me.
Right, and you also like the color, I assume.
Yes, I personally like that color too.
Exactly. All right. For the very first time, I went off topic. Sorry, Ashley.
No worries.
So we are going to cross too much this way. So, when did you join APMP as a member, Colleen?
I think I officially joined in 2000. I was approached to be a part of the APMP Journal.
Right.
And so I was the layout editor for the APMP Journal for many years. I'd have to refer back to my own resume to know how many years I did that. And it's since changed. Now it's done a little differently than it was back in my day. But that's when I joined. I'd been working at 24 Hour Company for probably about 6 months or so, and we saw this as a great project that could get me involved more with the APMP and give our company, a little bit more, prestige or recognition within the industry.
Got you, Colleen. Was it the same time you also were part of the local chapter and attended BitCon and stuff? Do you have any early memories of those?
Yes, definitely went to lots of NCA meetings over the years and watched the NCA just grow and grow and grow. And I can't believe how big it is now. And I started going to the BidCon back before it was Bid and Proposal Con. probably, I want to say 2003 might have been my first one. 24-hour company had participated before then, and I always had to stay back and, kind of mind the shop, so to speak. And then I finally got a chance to go, and then I got the bug and wanted to present. So my business partner at the time, Mike, had presented, and I saw him up there and thought, oh, I really want to do that. So the very next year, I pitched a topic, and then I think every year for 10 or 12 years, I spoke at the APMP Bid and Proposal Con.
So was it the same time you were also being part of the journal as well, Colleen?
Yes, I'm not really good at doing things in serial. I do them all in parallel. So I was going to school. I was doing the APMP journal. I was working pretty much full time at 24-hour company. I was doing a lot of sales and networking events, being involved in the APMP, starting to write articles for the journal and for the NCA newsletter, starting to speak at the Bid and Proposal Con. And then that got me invitations to speak at different chapters all over the world. So I spoke several times at the UK annual conference. I've spoken virtually to the Indian chapter, to the Australian chapter, in person at the South African chapter, the DAC chapter in Munich one year. So yeah, all over, and all over the US as well.
I think you would be one of the very few, we can count the names, Colleen, on that, who have actually spoken in multi-geographies. I think Ashley is catching up. I think you have set a benchmark there, which is nice. So from the journal editor, when did you thought, okay, now I need to be part of the wider APMP? Because I knew you progressed gradually to become the chair and also the CEO and related roles. Colleen, can you share some of your experience and the timeline around that as well?
Sure. I knew that I wanted to be, in general, a bigger part of leadership. And I became part owner of 24-hour company in 2004. And so after that, I really wanted to get, as involved as I could in the APMP, with the goal of not just forwarding the proposal profession, but also, selfishly getting my company's name out there. Mm-hmm. So I wound up taking a course called Boardroom Bound. And it was a course designed to help particularly women and minorities learn how to get on corporate boards. Because in a lot of ways, being on corporate boards is still very much a quote unquote, old white dude sort of place. Mm-hmm. And if corporate boards would represent, much like politics, if, politicians kind of reflect and represent their constituency, if corporate boards reflect their constituency in terms of, people who are buying or their product or enjoying their service, then companies will do better. So that was a great course. I took that. It was like a weekend long course. And then I got very excited about corporate boards, and they recommended that to start with nonprofit boards or association boards. So I said, well, I know an association. I know where to start. So I, being involved in the APMP boards was a great learning experience. And at the same time I was starting with the APMP boards, I was also getting involved with the Capitol Hill Arts Workshop, which was in my neighborhood, a little nonprofits workshop for children and adults who are getting involved in the arts. So I was really trying to learn as much as I could. And then that, boards can be a very thankless job. It's a lot of work with associations and with nonprofits. It's all volunteer. So it's a lot of, really amazing people working really, really hard for nothing, maybe a little bit of recognition. So it's whenever there's somebody who likes it and shows some skill at it, then the executive directors are always like, you stay on and do more. So that's kind of how I got involved in doing a lot of stuff with boards.
Perfect, Colleen. You made it look so simple, Colleen. I know the amount of effort that goes in on everything that they do. It looks like personality of taking more and more of helps you to progress. But if you can pick up maybe 2 or 3 key achievements over there when you were there as a kind of a CEO for the industry body, what would you say, Colleen?
Probably one of the biggest things that I was a part of was we had a major shift on the APMP that from the industry's creation for about 20 years or so, we'd had one executive director and he decided to retire. So I was not a part of the search for the new director, who is Rick Harris, but I was a part of his very first year of getting him involved with the APMP, having him, know all the players and understand our, some of the eccentricities about proposals, and then seeing the changes that he wanted to bring to the association to help us continue on this path of really professionalization and making sure that people understood that proposals were, career path, that this was a valid career path and a very important part of every business. So that was a huge thing. And that really with Rick, there were so many individual things that we did kind of in part of that of, growing internationally, growing the certification. We went through a logo rebrand while I was the CEO. That was also kind of part of this. And also getting more folks under 40 involved, knowing that we were going to have a brain drain with people retiring and making sure we were promoting the next generation of leaders. So I'd say, the couple of years that I spent working with Rick on the board were really, really monumental for the industry.
That's amazing, Colin. I can still see the energy that you have set forward. So being the youngest fellow, the youngest CEO, Colin, and also 40 under 40, and also Insight Award. I think again you are one of the very few, or maybe the only one who actually got all the awards. So,
maybe I know. I think I'm also still the youngest to achieve professional certification, but I'm excited one day to give up all of these youngest crowns. To see what the next generation is going to do.
Yeah, I was about to ask that as well, Colin. I think if you take one at a time, Insight, it's for articles, isn't it? So you won the Best Article Award for Insight. Yes. The first award that you received, or was the fellow that first one that you received?
Oh boy, I'm so bad with dates. I think the Insight Award was the first one I received. I think it was that, and then the fellow. I'd been nominated several times to be fellow, and I would joke with my business partner, Paul, is I'd say I felt like the Susan Lucci of the APMP, that I was always up for the award, but I never actually got it. So when they were announcing the awards, I was like, kind of defeatedly stabbing at the dessert at the lunch and like stuffing my face, being like, oh, I'm never going to get this stupid thing. And then they announced my name, and there I am with this like face full of cake, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, oh God, swallow the cake, get up. But yes, I think it was the Insight Award and then the Fellows Award.
Insight Fellow. And is it the same time also you completed your foundation practitioner and the professional certification, Colin?
The year that I got fellow was the same year that I passed professional. So that was the same year, yep.
I can see the parallels increasing. I had 3 lines for you, but now it's already crossed 5. So let's add one more. A proper entrepreneur, Colleen, comes up here. Would love to hear your entrepreneur journey, Colleen.
Oh boy. Well, I started as an intern and getting everybody coffee and just kept asking for more responsibilities and more things and working my way up and learning everything that I could. And, fortunately, working in a small company, you do get to do everything. You have a lot of insight into how the business is run. And I was very honest with, the 3 guys who then became my business partners to say, I am very interested in this path. What are some things that I would need to do to make you all also interested in me being on this path? So I think in terms of being an entrepreneur, one thing you always need to do, and certainly you can be an entrepreneur even in a regular career, not just having your own business, but to ask for what you want and say, this is a goal that I want, and then ask for help achieving it. And ask that of as many people as you can find, people who have done it before, people who are in your organization, mentors outside of your organization, people in the association, just trying to understand and collect all of the different pieces that you'll need to be successful on your journey. So for me, I'm not shy. You probably picked up on that. And so I just was constantly looking for new opportunities, asking questions, putting myself out there. There's plenty of awards I didn't win that I went and I applied for. So I think it's just, not letting rejection get you down and just keep trying, and whatever it is that you want, it's achievable. It might take longer than you expect. It might cost more, whether that's in time or money or energy or something, but it's all possible.
That's amazing. You simplified it so simply. That wasn't an easy journey. So you had so many passions, Colleen. I can see that from your profile, from what you have told so far. How do you keep yourself continuing with your passion when you keep on adding these things? That's number one question. Second question is, okay, working on your passion is one, but then sharing that passion to others is an entirely different ballgame. So how do you do both?
Yeah, good question. I really do like a lot of things. I like to be challenged. So I'm always looking for new stuff. I like being surrounded by people who are not like me, so that I'm challenged. People, I like to travel for that very reason, to go someplace that is completely different from my regular day-to-day, to learn something new, to see, new people, eat new food, like just to have completely new experiences. And in terms of sharing things, for me, it all comes back to authenticity. That if there is something that I'm genuinely interested in and excited about, it's really easy to share. It's those times when it's like, I'm not really on board with this. Like I would probably be a terrible politician because I can't lie very well. Like I can't fake it. I can't go up there and be like, yes, I care about you. If I really am like, I don't really care. So for me, it's about that. And it's, I've had a lot of great opportunities to share in different ways, the things that excite me. And then when you see that transitioning to somebody else and they hear you, and maybe for the first time, you're telling them something that they've heard a million times before, but you're saying it in a way that it finally clicks, and you see that happen. That for me is personally very fulfilling.
That's fascinating, Colleen, because it's so easy to talk about one particular subject and become an expert on that one thing. But in your case, that doesn't fit. It's typical Colleen there. So when you look into fitness, Colleen, because I read an interesting article that you wrote that yoga and fitness for proposal professionals, that's like 7, 8 years ago, Colleen. In addition to the 100 things that you do, how do you keep yourself, why do you think, first question, why do you think fitness is important to proposal professionals? And number 2 is, how do you keep yourself fit?
Oh, good questions. Well, first, I think particularly for proposal folks, I don't know if you've heard the phrase that sitting is the new smoking in terms of being detrimental to our health. And where proposal folks are so dedicated, we will do whatever it takes to deliver. We know just how important it is for ourselves, for our companies, for the jobs that we're protecting or that we're getting, and for the mission. So there's so many, we're just completely dedicated that we will just sit in front of a computer for hours and not move and just type. And you can do that for so long, and then your body starts to tell you can't. And for a lot of us, we wait a little too long before the warning light comes on And then, you're actually causing yourself some health problems. And so to look at it from that kind of selfish way, if you don't take care of yourself, then you really can't help your team. You really can't help, the mission move forward. So to taking some time and finding a way to, people say balance, but, balance is a hard thing, I think, for proposal folks to understand, but taking some time to do something that's not proposals that will help you refresh and revive is really just going to make your work that much better. And at first that's really scary to do, is to say, like, I'm going to walk away from this desk, this problem. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go up and down the stairs a few times and walk outside, or even just, parking as far away in the parking lot as you possibly can. And, walking in, anything to just get your body moving in a different way can really help spark creativity and just bring you back to working in an even more efficient way.
That's brilliant, Colleen. And the second point is, what triggered your journey towards fitness, Colleen? Was it self-motivated, or was it a personal event or personal thing that said, okay, from now on, I'm going to look after myself? If you can share the fitness part as well, Colleen, that would be very useful.
Sure. So when I kind of rolled right from college to working even more full-time than I was, and I noticed that, at least when I was going to school, I was walking a lot. Georgetown's it's a beautiful campus. There's a lot of stairs. And then when I transitioned to working 100% full time, I was getting like 100 steps a day. Like, if that, it was like nothing. It was a very small office. And so I joined a gym, and it was really boring. It was, really boring. I just was like, I would just go because I thought, oh, I guess you're supposed to do this. And then I saw, a few years passed, and Georgetown has a lot of alumni events, and another alumni ran a dance company, and they were doing a workshop for alumni. And I said, well, why not? Like, I wasn't really, into fitness or movement as a kid or anything. So I thought, I'll probably be terrible, but maybe it'd be fun. And I went, and it was a Bollywood dance company. And I had so much fun that I started doing that. And I can't just do something. I have to do it. So I started performing with them, and we would perform at festivals and events. And we performed at the Kennedy Center, which was great. I did that for several years and really started to love dance and see, just how great it made me feel. And I love being on stage. So whether I was speaking with a group or I was performing, I just loved it. And one of my friends from my Bollywood troupe said one day, hey, let's go take a pole dancing class. And I was like, for real? Like, I don't know about this. And we went, and I was terrible. And she was okay at it. She picked it up pretty quickly, but I was just like terrible. And we stayed after our class, and we watched the next class. And these mostly women at that time were doing these amazing like acrobatic feats, like flipping upside down and doing all this crazy stuff. And I was like, well, how long did it take you to do that? And they said a couple of months. Wow. So I thought, well, a couple of months, like, well, okay. And so that really got my challenging myself, because I wasn't a physical person. I wasn't strong, or, I couldn't open jars without asking somebody, one of my business partners for help. Like, could you open the pickles? So then I started on that journey. And so now I'm a professional competitive level pole dancer. I've performed several times with Snoop Dogg during his most recent tours. And so I can't just try something. I must just do it to the nth degree.
That's amazing, Colleen. I just had it I even struggled to walk on a flat surface, let alone around the pole. So how long did it actually take, Colleen? Did you do that in a week? Because I'm sure 2 months is a long time for you.
Oh no! This I did. It took a couple months, and it took a lot of work. It's one reason that kind of like that why fitness question is for me, not growing up doing anything really fitnessy or team sports or dance like some kids do, the challenge of learning all this stuff as an adult, which is building the muscle memory, understanding flexibility as an adult, is so challenging that it's just really kept me engaged. And at every level of like, okay, I've learned this, cool new thing. Now I'm like, okay, the next thing. So now my new thing is I'm working with a Mongolian contortion coach, because that's like the highest level of flexibility is Mongolian contortion. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that.
I need to Google it at some point, but we will be thinking of it. Don't worry. So I think, and again, it's the same thing. It's nice to have a passion to be the best in what you do, and you have taken it all the way to the USPD of pro level. But then to go and start the pole con, why? I mean, like, what? I mean, like, this is like the 12th parallel thing that you have told me already, Colleen, in like 30 minutes.
I know, you're making me tired just talking about it. I'm not. Yeah, PoleCon. It's really the APMP that convinced me I could do PoleCon. Right. So I was involved in many levels and been in ProposalCon. I was involved as a speaker. I was involved as an exhibitor. When I was on the board, the board does a lot of the planning. We look at budgets and talk about how to negotiate with a hotel. So I learned a whole lot from the APMP, and I actually purchased PoleCon from the founder. PoleCon is the original pole event, and now our competitor event just this year closed. So now we are not just the original, but the only large-scale pole dancing convention, expo, whatever you want to call it, in the world, with more than 1,000 people attending every year. And I thought from my experience with the APMP that this was something that I could do. And it is. It's worked. I've got to say that usually associations, kind of the way associations are structured, is you develop a membership, you have some sort of a publication for your members that helps educate them. Maybe you create a certification, and then you create a convention to get everybody together to sell your certifications, to have a place for all your sponsors to be exhibitors, et cetera. And I kind of have done this backwards, where I had a convention, but I didn't have the membership base. And there is no association yet for pole dancers. But my grand scheme is to keep reverse engineering this using the APMP model and actually make an association for pole dancers to do some of the same things we've done at the APMP, to provide education, to provide resources, to understand career paths, to create a level of professionalism, to have safe certifications. So you could say that the APMP is really the reason why PoleCon is still around.
Colleen, while you were talking about it, my mind went to like, what will be the foundation level for the pole? I mean, and if I need to get certified, what should I have to do? I mean, like, good luck with you on that, Colleen. And like, I'm sure you have so what's the immediate plan for your PoleCon, Colleen, and then the journey for the next 3 years?
The immediate plan, so with our competitor event closing its doors, we are poised to have a lot of growth this year. So we've been growing about 20% every year from the 2015 event, which was the first event that I ran for PoleCon. And we are, as of closing our early bird sales, where we're usually, again, it's like that 20-ish% growth, we were at 80% growth. So that's a lot of growth. Growth is good. Smart growth is good. But when you grow a little too fast, sometimes that can be, dangerous for a small business. So my near term is really managing this upcoming event to make sure, we continue to provide the quality that people expect, while also bracing for, I was expecting around 1,200 people, and we might be closer to 2,000 people. So from that, looking forward to continuing to grow, not just in the US, but looking at licensing events around the world. So that way people could have the same sense of community and education in their country where they're not having to spend, thousands to travel to the one event.
Nice. Thank you, Colleen. That was fascinating. So good luck.
Thank you.
So, Colleen, I know we've exhausted you, drilling you about all of your crazy achievements. But so now we're going to lighten things up with a few kind of fun questions.
Okay.
So if you had an autobiography, what would it be called?
This is a quote from Winston Churchill, or at least I've heard it attributed to Winston Churchill. I know sometimes these like famous quotes are like actually not true. But the quote that I heard attributed to Winston Churchill is never, never, never quit. And that's what I would call my autobiography.
Oh, that's great. So a 6-year-old child asks you if Santa Claus is real. What would you say?
I would say absolutely, because we all need magic in our lives. We all need that feeling of belief, that feeling of something bigger than us, that feeling of joy, that something maybe as silly as Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy. And, let kids have that joy while they're young, and hopefully they can keep it once they turn adults.
That's great. Have you ever sent a text message to the wrong person?
I have. Fortunately, I'm not what like my husband, some people send. A friend of mine, she overshares all the time. Love her to death, overshares. And she sent me this really overshare text that she had sent to her boyfriend. And I was like, that's great. I didn't need to know any of that. But fortunately, all of my texts to my husband are like, buy milk. I'm running late, so they're not very exciting. So if I've sent them to the wrong person, they're like, you want me to get milk? I'm like, yeah, just pick it up.
So I'm not sure if you're a big cooker, but do you have any major kitchen fails?
Oh, I love to cook. I cook all the time. Part of being very healthy and focused on what I'm putting into my body. We're actually this year, we just recently moved, and we have this, I'm a city person. So we moved out to not really the burbs. We're still like walking distance to a metro. And I'm really excited that we get to have a garden this year. So I'm going to be growing food and my own food and cooking my own food. But cooking fails, I have to go back to high school. I had gotten really interested in cooking, and I invited a bunch of friends over, and we had this is before they invented Galentine's Day, but I think it would be called Galentine's Day nowadays with all my friends. And I wanted to make a baked Alaska, which is sort of a complicated dish where it's like a pie, but with ice cream, and then you put a meringue on top, and you have to put it in the oven and broil it, or use like one of those little hand torches, like for a creme brulee, to broil it, not for very long, because otherwise you're going to melt the whole thing. And so I put it in the oven, and I kept putting this towel on my shoulder, and I put it in the oven, and the broiler was on, and the towel had gotten caught on fire, but I didn't realize it. And so I just threw it back over my shoulder and walked back out into the dining room. And my friends are like, "Oh my God, you're on fire." And I was. So yes, so that was fun.
Oh my gosh, that sounds terrifying.
I haven't made a baked Alaska since then, but I think I'd invest in one of those little torches if I did.
Oh, it sounds much safer. Do you have a signature dance move?
I do. My signature move is a move called the Bird of Paradise. It's a very side-bending split. The name, it comes from a yoga move by the same name, and it involves a lot of shoulder flexibility and hamstring flexibility.
Sounds painful.
It's tough. It's not commonly done because it involves a lot of like weird levels of flexibility in a lot of different directions.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like that. Is there anything you refuse to share? Now
that you've asked me all sorts of random questions. No, No, I'm pretty open. For several years, I wrote a blog that, I guess in that interest of helping other people, I never thought was too personal, but I had a couple of friends say like, I can't believe you're sharing this. And I said, well, I'm sharing this to help other people. So I wound up stopping blogging for a while because I got several gigs writing. So I like mission accomplished. No, I'm pretty open. I'm a big Instagrammer, so I'm always sharing little like snaps in my stories of things that are going on in my day. But no, I don't think there's anything I'm not comfortable sharing.
That's great. So if you could make one rule for the day that everyone had to follow, what would it be?
Particularly in the context of the DC area and with that lens of proposal professionals, I would say be kind to yourself. We're all a little too high strung, a little too driven, a little too perfectionist, and it can go a long way just being kind to yourself.
Yeah, that's a really great one. So you're about to get into a fight. What song comes to mind as your soundtrack?
Is this like a dance fight or a gun fight? Or I don't know. It's a good question. I guess I'm trying to think. My brain started playing a song, and I think it's "Eye of the Tiger," where it's like bam, 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 like that. I would be like, yeah, let's go.
It's a great one. So if animals could speak, which animal would be the rudest, and why do you think so?
Oh, definitely my cat Murphy. Murphy is an old man and he's got a heart condition now, and he has been peeing on my coffee maker on and off for the past month. And I don't know why. And I would really like to understand why he keeps peeing on the damn coffee maker. So yes, I think it's my cat.
Oh my goodness. Okay, last one. So if you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume you had done?
That's good. Probably like gone on a stage or some place that I wasn't supposed to be. And I've done that so many times, and I'm actually just really good at, pretending like I'm supposed to be somewhere. And it's worked for me a lot, just being like I guess trespassing probably is I've just walked into a lot of weird places. And if you smile and look like you know where you're going, people are like, oh, I guess she knows where she's going.
Yes, Colleen. So obviously we have crossed the 12 parallels. So you have done so many things, Colleen, and you keep on experimenting life. So who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career on your success, or who you want to be grateful for in your life so far?
I would definitely say that my former business partner, Dennis, definitely had a huge role in my career. He took a chance giving me an internship and then made sure it was as difficult as humanly possible. And he, at every accomplishment, Dennis always would bring me back down to earth. He's a big scholar of, Greek and Roman, times. And he would always say, how there was this, person who would sit next to Caesar, like during, parades and stuff where everyone is just like, oh, hail Caesar, hail Caesar. And the person next to him would just say like, you're just a man. And to bring Caesar back down to earth. I have no idea if that's actually historically true or not, but that was his philosophy and the way that he worked with me. And while sometimes it was annoying, it certainly pushed me to continue doing, more and more things and more things to help our joint company and our industry.
In life, Colleen, outside the proposal?
Outside of proposals, I have a challenging relationship with my parents, and I'd say that I learned a lot of what I didn't want out of life from my parents. So that can be a huge motivator to look at, how I grew up and how I was raised and say, wow, this kind of sucks. I don't want any of this. So I live a very different life than the life that I grew up in. And I'm very thankful for the lessons, however hard, that they pushed me, not just in the proposal industry, but then pushed me in life to have the things that I'd always wanted growing up.
That's nice, Colleen. That's amazing. You can always learn what to do and what not to do from people. And well said. Right. Mm-hmm. So what's the best piece of advice you have received so far, and from whom?
I'm noticing a theme talking about all this stuff, that I'm really good with like negative reinforcement. I had a really terrible coach I worked with when I first started competing in pole, and she was really mean and said a lot of really mean things. And I fired her and was like, basically, F you, like, I'm going to do it. Like, and so yeah, I think it's, in terms of advice, I've gotten really more the opposite when people tell me like, oh, you can't do that. Like, you're too whatever, you're too young, you're too much of a woman, you're too, like when I started doing pole dancing and proposals, I had this one client who we worked with him for years. We did a lot of business together. I'd been over to his home, for holidays. Like, we were close. And when I was becoming very open about like, hey, I do this thing and it's kind of cool, and maybe you should think it's not just what you think, it's some other stuff too. And now it's in the Super Bowl. But anyway, he wouldn't talk to me, and he would only talk to my business partner, Mike. And he would do these weird things where he would communicate like through Mike, where he was like, tell Colleen. And Mike would say, why don't you just tell Colleen? And he had this mental block because he couldn't get past this pole dancing thing. And, I thought about that and thought about how many other people were being less obvious than him about, was this new thing that I was getting really interested in, excited about, actually damaging my career and my reputation. And I decided to stick it out. And I said, no, like, there's some value here. There's some really interesting things that happen when you challenge your body and you learn new things that are actually really relevant to a corporate environment. And I stuck to my guns. And years later, he emailed me and said, do you want to get lunch? And now we're back to being cool. And I have several clients who are in the NCA who are my regular students now, and in my pole classes, because they listened to me. They thought, well, hey, if Colleen is doing this, maybe there's something there. And then they tried it, took an interest. So yeah, I would say in terms of advice, I've been really motivated by people telling me what not to do. So the advice I would give people, trying to put a more positive spin on it, is be true to whomever you are or whomever you want to be. And you'll find a way to reach people. You may always have a level of agree to disagree, but you'll always figure out what a middle path is, as long as you stay true to yourself.
That's so true, Colleen. I think, a few years ago, I learned this quote which says, your perception of me is a reflection on you. You is based on an awareness on me. So you kind of, summarized how your life is structured. So what inspires you in life, Colleen?
I'm really inspired by my students. I love teaching. It was something I loved doing, with the APMP, like getting up there and speaking to people and helping them understand things. And I do it now with movement, and just seeing people, make those connections and say that they really understand something, or they've learned something new, or, they've had fun. They've taken some time out of their day to just, like we used to call it, Mike and I would call our sessions edutainment, because you're going to learn something, but you're also going to have fun. And I just kind of live my life, and my teaching ethos is in that edutainment sort of way. And So I'm constantly inspired by my students. I just got back from Key West. I have a student in Key West who flies me down there to teach her pole dancing. And she's had a hip replacement. She's had cancer. She has all sorts of, she's in her 50s. She's all sorts of just, a lot of health problems. And she tries so hard because this is a goal that she has set for herself. So she's constantly working through, pain and, just trying to get to this achievement that to her means so much. And seeing that, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And I get to help her on that journey.
So, Colleen, you talked about staying true to yourself. So if I said to you, I'm going to be me, what does that statement mean to you?
I think it's about, stalling. Well, I think everybody has to figure out what that means individually. I think there's a level of finding those things that really matter to you and then trying to do more of them or do more of them in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. What I don't think it is going in and like, okay, I'm going to be a professional snowboarder. So I'm going to go into my boss's office and say, I quit, and then go be a professional snowboarder. I think there's a smart way to be whoever you are. If you've got big goals, like something like that, like a major career change that, mm-hmm. Change and things don't happen overnight. And there's also something to be said that I do think is lost a little bit nowadays of being polite. That, knowing you walk into a room full of people who don't share your beliefs, there's a way to be true to yourself and share who you are with other people. That's not just forcing your belief structure down them. And I say that with the background of, we've been deep into the election season now for, it feels like years. And I think there's a lot of ways to share complicated belief structures where people are honoring each other, as opposed to being like, well, I'm this, and because you're that, then we can never be friends and we can never find a common ground. And like, no, you can still be you can still be polite. You can still do all these things that you want, while being around people who are very different from you. And maybe, if we listened more and talked less, we'd actually come to more understandings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. So it's already challenging being an expert in one field, but you're excelling on so many different fronts. What advice can you give to people that have multiple passions like yourself?
Yeah, never stop learning. There's so much content. There's free content. When you go online, you can learn to do anything on YouTube. Like it's a little daunting sometimes, but it's like I mentioned, I'm starting this garden. I've never gardened in my life. I've killed a lot of houseplants. And I had a friend who is an avid gardener, and she encouraged me and said, here's a website where you can order some fruit trees. And so I ordered them, and they're waiting to be planted. I have them. And now I'm like, okay, now it's go time. Like now I got a book from the library, how to garden. I'm going to YouTube some stuff. We're going to go to Home Depot, and that's it. We're planting these fruit trees. They're going in this weekend. So, just don't be afraid, I guess. Don't be afraid and don't stop learning that, you can, the first time you try anything, like I'm probably going to kill some of these fruit trees, like I'm going to try not to, but you might not do the best job the very first time you try something. But if you keep at it, then it'll get better. It'll get easier. It'll get, maybe even more fun. Or maybe you do something for fun that you totally suck at, and that's okay too.
Yeah. It's all about, getting that balance and enjoying some things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm trying to figure out what balance means for me. Mm-hmm. So I've been through a lot of career changes. I still dabble in proposals. I help 24-hour company out as a consultant. I'm working on a Microsoft Word project right now with them. I do a lot of freelance marketing, PolCon. I do a lot of this teaching and, performing. That performing with Snoop Dogg fell in my lap. Couldn't say no to that. So I'm trying to find balance in all of the various things that I do, and then also try to figure out, where is that definition of self? Like for so long I was just all proposals, and now I'm like, out of many things, and how do I represent that to people in under an hour? So those are my current challenges.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for your time. I mean, this is a fascinating talk with you. It's a privilege to have you with us here at Scribble Talk. We wish you all the success, happiness, the balance, and most importantly, good health. Please continue to inspire not only the bid and proposal professionals, Colleen, but everybody around you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you, Colleen.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Baskar Sundaram,
signing off.